The artist I chose that inspires me is a bit of an odd one, but I chose to take a look at an interview of MF Doom. As a bit of background, MF Doom is a British-American songwriter and rap artist who's known for his lyricism and wordplay, as well as his signature metal mask that he wears while performing. He was also known for his sampling of odd materials, some examples being The Adventures of Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, Street Fighter II, and his repeated sampling of the Fantastic Four series. His most popular albums are Food, Mad Villainy, and Operation Doomsday. The reason I've looked into him for a long time is because I've liked his music for a good while, and I was only introduced to Doom after high school, which was past 2020, where his untimely death happened. Looking at the Red Bull Music Academy interview with him, one quote stands out to me, which is that he offhandedly mentions that what you use to record doesn't matter, showing off the little bit about equipment not mattering as much as passion. He also mentions his odd work process, seeing as a lot of his songs start or end with a sort of mix of samples and or a sample of Fantastic Four. The exact quote with his songs is, "Sometimes I'll leave it alone for a few months, then come back to it, and find one last piece that means it's done. Then when it's done, I'll know it's done because it'll be full. But really, I could work on it forever. I'm still finding little samples that I could add to that, but I pretty much know when it's done, when it feels like a complete piece." Which is similar to what I mentioned in my first creative journal looking at Ruben's description of the creative process. From the way that both of them mention it, breaks in the process of making a thing are extremely important. While focusing and meeting a deadline wasn't necessarily something Doom had to do, knowing when to call a project finished and when you feel like you need to take a break to step back are clearly important pieces of his process. Another quote from the interviews with Doom is speaking on his process yet again. The exact quote is, "At first it's like pieces are telling me stories, and I don't know the story yet." Now, this is similar to how I looked at inspirations for a lot of my writing work, however, specifically Ambulance Chasers with this document. See, a lot of my inspirations are very weird and very out there. For example, Ambulance Chasers was heavily inspired by my mother's and my own hatred for RFK Jr. See, it's weird because I wanted to tell a story about how we both hate RFK Jr., and it ended up turning into a weird sci-fi series about two gay boys in space trying to solve the health crisis. One of the final reasons that I picked MF Doom as an inspiration for my capstone project specifically is that despite it not being the project that went forward, although I'm very happy to work with the project as their sound recordist and editor, he was a massive inspiration for the project Ambulance Chasers, not only in his music, but in part of how he was. Not only was his music a way where the environments planned on the first planning to be shown, a good example being the underground area where they first meet certain characters, but also the way that Doom ended up passing. As I said previously, he had an untimely death due to a bad reaction with blood pressure medications. The problem is, if hospitals were staffed better, this would not have happened. There was not a massive outbreak of a disease at the time, aided by the misinformation of anti-vax beliefs. This would not have happened. And if the root of America was not based against those who have a skin tone different than hex code FFFFF, this would not have happened. I've already explained this multiple times through pitching the project, but I'm a leftist and my political ideology tends to come through with my work. I believe that people deserve equal treatment, and that heavily relates to not only the genre of punk, alt, hip-hop, and revolutionary pieces, but it's at the core of Ambulance Chasers. The literal logline is a sci-fi series where a rejected doctor decides to take his studies into his own hands and go on a journey to gather a crew to find an all-cure medicine. It's about a character, Silk, seeing the people that rejected him and told him he's being stupid, pushing it off and deciding to go away from money and go towards what will help people. In a very roundabout way, that's my last point, but in a more direct way with the first two, you can see that MF Doom has been a massive inspiration for me. Also, as much as Ambulance Chasers was rejected as a project, I may still try to sneak it in the future, so don't be surprised to see it come up again.